I'm reading the sentence, then you will tell me whether it's clear and then we'll go on. So, all that is a weak falling from his higher nature. All of us have got a higher nature and a lower nature. We are mostly concerned only with our lower nature. We are not even aware that we have a higher nature. Just as in the universe, there is a lower nature which we call normally hemisphere 1, at the lower hemisphere, level 1, that is the physical world, the vital world, and the mental world. This is the manifested world, and that's we call the lower hemisphere. Then there is level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness, which is normally not available to normal men. Okay? It is usually not available to normal men. They yogis have access to the level 2. Their consciousness rises out of the body and it goes there. So we have a higher nature which is mostly hidden to us. But when we go into the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness, that higher nature starts revealing itself to us. Oh, I had this capacity in me, I did not know. That's what you feel. And the strength that you did not have when you were in the level 1, you start getting that strength, you start getting that knowledge. Suddenly you see that ideas which were not coming are suddenly entering your mind. So that's the higher nature. Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. Universally also it is true, and individually also it is true. All of us have, there's a relation between the individual and the universe. So we are usually not aware of the potentialities of the para prakriti in us. But yoga makes you aware that you have access to all these superior planes of consciousness where knowledge can be available, where ananda can be available, where pain and suffering can be cancelled. Okay, all these things are possible. So that's it. So what is all that is? All that is a weak. What is all that? The one he is reacting and saying, I will not fight. His body starts trembling, his bow starts falling down, he feels feverish and he's trembling and he says, I will not fight. He has been overtaken by the physical condition. Okay, so that is the, so he is not aware of his higher nature. Now that is exactly what Krishna will do, make him aware of his higher nature and ask him to rise to that level. I am reading the second sentence. He has to see, who? Arjuna. He has to see only the work that must be done. Kartavyam karma. Okay. Now this kartavyam karma is a very, very misinterpreted thing. We'll discuss that briefly and we'll see. Kartavyam karma, that karma which has to be done. Kartavyam, that should be done, is to be done. Okay. To hear only the divine command, breathe through his warrior nature, to feel only for the world and the destiny of mankind, calling to him as its God-sent man, to assist its march and clear its path of the dark armies that beset it. Okay, so he has to understand that he has a work to do. Now this work to do is not determined by your mind, and this is very often told about duty. If you have got a job, you have to do your duty. Okay, but that's not what Srimati will tell you afterwards about duty. Duty is a man-made thing. But kartavyam karma is, you remember we discussed the swabhava and the swadharma. So that work which has been given to you at the highest level, that work you have to perform. And in the case of Arjuna, what is that work? He has to, Sridhar is explaining, that work he has to do is to, first of all, to hear only the divine command, breathe through his warrior nature. So he is a warrior and the divine is telling him, don't lose your warrior nature, number one. Okay, breathe through. The word is interesting. He's putting that idea into his mind. Be a warrior, don't run away from that. Then secondly, to feel only for the world. You are feeling for yourself and you are becoming very selfish. You are reacting with your own personal, but don't do that. Go to the higher level and feel what is your function in the world. Okay, that is more important than your own feelings and the destiny of mankind. So he has to feel for the world and the destiny of mankind. In the destiny of mankind, that particular work is killing of the undivine elements which are represented by the Kauravas. So that's a work to be done. God is asking him to do that. He should not run away from that. Calling to him as a God sent man. You are God sent, and you are, that's what I meant by Kartavyam Karma. God, when he makes souls, okay, we come back to the famous discussion on the Swabhava and the Swadharma. The Swabhava is not your nature of body, mind, life. Don't make a mistake, okay? Swabhava is the nature given by the divine to your soul. It's your work to be done in the physical world. And every soul has a different Swabhava. It's not that everybody who goes and realizes part of the divine has the same nature. Certainly not. Okay, somebody can be something. Very good example is constantly I refer to is Mother and Srimdo. Both are at a divine level, but one is into literature and another is to music. So nature is differing. Okay, so that is the real Swabhava is the soul Swabhava, not your body, mind, life. Okay? Remember that. That's very important. So, in other words, we don't know what our Swabhava is. If we are a low level one, we don't know what our nature is. Okay? I remember one or two things. Some people are in the wrong profession for a long time. Okay? And I gave one example also, if you remember, our Prime Minister, Modi. Okay? He thought that he has to do the work of the Brahmin. He thought that his work is to renounce the world. And he approached the Ramakrishna mission many times, not once, twice or thrice he approached. I want to join the Ramakrishna mission. He was told very clearly by one of the presidents there, who was a very developed man. I forget the name, but he told him that no, you can't be a monk. You are destined for another work altogether. Okay, and that's exactly, we know what happened now, although many people will deny, but in 8 years, what he has done is completely, India has taken a U-turn. Okay, what was happening before has been absolutely reversed. The whole world is stunned actually, if you see all the reports coming in. So this is that was his real work. So Arjuna's work is to do what the divine is commanding him to do. But since he is identified with body, mind, life, he does not know what that work is. He is reacting only personally. So Krishna is going to tell him, don't remain at your personal level of body, mind, life. Rise to the higher nature. Okay, the higher nature. Realize what the divine is asking you to do. And in this case, even if you don't know, I am telling you very clearly what you should do. Okay, so that's it. Rise and fulfill your real Swabhava, the warrior nature, to feel only for the world and the destiny of mankind, calling to him as its God sent man. God has sent you here to do this particular work. Don't shirk it. Don't escape it. To assist its march and clear its path to the dark armies that beset it. Now this last is very interesting because it refers to Sri Aurobindo himself. Okay? Sri Aurobindo thought that his function in the world at that time in the revolution against the British, his work was to get independence for India, and he was working for it. But suddenly the divine tells him, no, that's not your work. Your work is elsewhere. You have another work altogether to do. What you have to do is, the destiny of mankind has to be changed. You have to work for the world and not for your own ideas of only freedom for India. That other people will do. Don't worry about that. Do what you have to do. I am telling you what to do. You have to bring down the supermind. So go to Pondicherry, remain there and do this work. Okay, so that's absolutely that last bit completely applicable to Sri Aurobindo. And note the word God sent man. Okay, this is also very interesting. There is a shadow of it in Savitri. Okay, when Savitri is saying that she wants to be with Satyavan, and she doesn't want to, she is refusing to come into the world. Then the voice tells her that what will you give report to their supreme when you go to him, that you did not do your work and you came back without doing the work that was assigned to you? So that's exactly what that reflection is there here also. Okay, so then she changes her and she says, I want power, I want love, I want all this for the world. And then she does what has to be done. So this is, you can see this reflection in many of Sri Aurobindo works, but here it is very clear. Okay, God sent man. So Sri Aurobindo is God sent to do this work. Okay, it also reminds me, he says in one place that all the crucial steps in evolution, it is an avatar who does that work. Okay, Ram, whether you call him a historical figure or whatever, he is the one that established the moral code. Then there is Krishna, who established the level 2, the overmind consciousness, the spiritual consciousness. He is the one who established. Then now Sri Aurobindo comes and he is establishing the supramental world. So all this work is done only by avatars, he says. So naturally, he is declaring himself to be an avatar without saying that in so many words. Okay. So there is a very interesting Hindi book, I think it's in Hindi, I don't remember, where he has given, the author has given all the statements of Sri Aurobindo to show that he is an avatar. Okay. So this is one of those things. All right. So they finished and the dark army is beset it. Who are the dark armies? The Kauravas here, but they also represent the anti-divine forces which are there in the physical world. Okay. So now we go to the next para. Arjuna in his reply to Krishna. Who will read? Anyone?
Arjun, I'm
Yeah.
reading for you.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Archana.
Arjun, in his reply to Krishna, admits the rebuke even while he strives against and refuses the command. He is aware of his weakness and yet accepts subjection to it. It is poorness of spirit, he owns, that has smitten away from him his true heroic nature. His whole consciousness is bewildered in its view of right and wrong, and he accepts the divine friend as his teacher. But the emotional and intellectual props on which he had supported his sense of righteousness have been entirely cast down, and he cannot accept a command which he seems to appeal only to his old standpoint and gives him no new basis for action. He attempts still to justify his nervous
Yeah.
the claim of his nervous and sensational being, which shrinks from the slaughter with its sequel of blood-stained enjoyments; the claim of his heart, which recoils from the sorrow and emptiness of life that will follow his act; the claim of his customary moral notions, which are upheld by the necessity of gurus, Bhishma and Drona; the claim of his reason, which sees no good but only evil results of the terrible and violent work assigned to him. He has resolved that on the old basis to objections that seem to him unanswerable. It is these claims of Arjuna's egoistic being that in order to make place for the higher law which would transcend all egoistic motives of action.
Yeah. Okay. I think there was a little bit of a internet problem, but anyway, whatever it is. This is not a very big para, small one. We'll discuss that. Arjuna, in his reply to Krishna, Krishna has scolded him and told him that why are you exhibiting this weakness? From where is this weakness coming to you? You are a warrior. Stand up. You can't do this. So Arjuna, in his reply to Krishna, admits the rebuke, the scolding, even while he strives against and refuses the command. He knows that what he is doing, he is not capable of doing. He is doing something wrong, he admits. Okay? He, even while he strives against and refuses the command, he is striving against the command. He is aware of his weakness and yet accepts subjection to it. This is very interesting. 90% of humanity, and I'm sure all of us almost, we know that sometimes we are not capable of doing something, and yet we succumb to the suggestion. Okay, I know I should not be eating too much. I know of many diabetics, okay, who say that, okay, they say, I know that I should not be eating sweets, but they give all sorts of arguments to do that, and yet they do it, okay, so I know one person who says, dining room is giving a sweet, his mother's prasad, nothing will happen to me. I will eat it. So, apart from that, oh, one small sweet, nothing happens. So, I'm only giving a very easy example. But very often we know what we should not do, and yet we do. Okay, so that's exactly what he's doing. He's aware of his weakness and yet accepts subjection to it. There's incapacity of will and strength in us. It is poorness of spirit. There you are. Okay? Poorness of spirit, lack of strength. He owns. The word own is very clearly, it means he is accepting. Okay? He owns, he accepts. That has smitten away from him his true heroic nature. Arjuna is the Kshatriya. He has to do the work of the Kshatriya, but he is not doing it. His whole consciousness is bewildered in its view of right and wrong, and he accepts the divine friend as his teacher. So that is at least a saving factor. He is not agreeing to him, and yet he says, you are my teacher, and I realize that I am confused in my mind. Okay? So it happens to everybody. We are all sometimes confused. What is the right method? We find arguments for and against every decision that we take. So this is, when that happens to us, we should actually refer back to Mother and say, make it clear to me. So that's exactly what Arjuna is doing. He is telling Sri Krishna, I am confused. Tell me what I should do. Bewildered in his view of right and wrong, and accepts the divine friend as his teacher. Now, this is exactly what happens when we are disturbed, okay? Whether it be by anger or whether it be by a desire that is not fulfilled, or there is a work to be done for which we don't feel confident, there is disturbance in the being, and that disturbance does not allow us to think clearly. Only when we are calm and quiet, then we see what is right and what is wrong. But that's relatively rare. Mostly we are confused. Okay. So this is what he's saying. So he realized that he is confused and asks for help. Normally, normal man does not ask for help. But we are all in the ashram and we should ask Mother for help. And she certainly helps. We may receive or may not receive the guidance, but certainly she helps. There is no doubt about it. Okay? So he accepts the divine friend as his teacher. By the way, note, divine friend and teacher. So actually Arjuna is not aware that Sri Krishna is divine. He realizes that only in the 12th chapter, where Sri Krishna shows him his Vishwarupa. Then he realizes that, my God, what I considered my friend is really the divine. And then he apologizes to him and says, I may have sometimes used words which are not very respectful to you in the dining hall or on the couch when you're just sitting and talking. Okay, I may have done that. So I bow down to you. Okay. Sahasra Kritva, 1,000 times I bow down to you. That's chapter 12. Very far away, we'll come to that later on. So he realizes this, that that thing is there in this sentence. He accepts the divine friend as his teacher. Teacher, same is not using the word guru, okay? His divine friend is a teacher. But the emotional and intellectual props on which he is supported his sense of righteousness have been entirely cast down, and he cannot accept a command which seems to appeal to his old standpoint. Now that's interesting. The old standpoint is a moral code. But now he is asked to reject the moral code and go to the spiritual level. Okay? That's the old standpoint. This happens to all yogis. Their old nature starts getting destroyed and the new nature starts coming in. Okay? So it's very interesting. And you see that, my God, things which I did not know I was capable of, suddenly now these things are coming into me. You realize that. Yes. Seems to appeal only to his old standpoint and gives him no basis for action. He attempts still to justify his refusal of the work and puts forward in its support the claim of his nervous and sensational being, which shrinks from the slaughter with its sequel, with its consequence of blood-stained enjoyments. Even if I win the war, what will I eat? They are all blood-stained. I have killed people. So how can I enjoy that? It will be bothering me for life. The claim of his heart, which recoils from the sorrow and emptiness of life that will follow his act, the claim of his customary moral notions, which are appalled, surprised, and not tremendously surprised, okay, and contradicted by the necessity of slaying his gurus, Bhishma and Drona. How can I do that? It's against all norms, moral norms. You can't do that. The claim of his reason, which sees no good but only evil results of the terrible and violent work assigned to him. The violent work has been assigned to him, not a gentle work. So therefore he has a problem. But Srirendra has listed many reasons. We'll look at each one. Okay. He attempts still to justify his refusal of the work and puts forward in its support a claim. Note the word claim, number one. Which part of him? His nervous and sensational being. In other words, the body vital part. Okay. Nervous implies that because the nerves are part of the body, but they are the ones that carry the impressions, the nerves. If the nerves are not there, you will not feel pain, you will not feel anything. The senses won't work if the nerves are not there. So that's the physical vital part. And sensational being, that which is in the sensations. Which shrink. Just 1 second, huh? There's a phone call coming. Yes, Ajit, good morning. Tell. Okay. No, so you want to come late or you don't want to come at all? Decide and tell me. Okay, okay, okay. No problem. So I'll inform Rukshat also not to come. Okay. Yeah. Enjoy your work in the lake. Okay, over. Yeah. So we were at, so first claim of the nervous and physical part of you. Okay. The claim of the nervous and sensational being which shrinks from the slaughter. I can't do this violent action, not possible for me. The slaughter with the sequel, the consequence and that which follows afterwards, the consequence of blood-stained enjoyments. Now the claim of his heart. So first he has spoken about the nervous and sensational being, now his heart, slightly at the higher level of the vital, which recoils from the sorrow and emptiness of life that will follow his act. All my family will disappear. I will have nobody to associate with. I will have nobody to be my companions. So that's a claim of his heart. Then, third, the claim of his customary moral notions. Now is the ethical part of him. The ethical part is certainly part of the mind, no? But not the higher mind. It's the physical mind and the vital mind. Okay? The claim of his customary moral notions, which are appalled by the necessity of slaying his gurus, Bhishma and Drona. Fourth, the claim of his reason. So see how Surendra is using his whole body, his sensational part, his heart, and his reason. So one by one, Surendra is going from the lower to the higher, the claim. And the word he's using every time, claim. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one is the claim of his reason, which sees no good but only evil results of the terrible and violent work assigned to him. So entirely his whole being is rejecting the. But he is not going above the mind. Now Sri Krishna is telling him to go. You have gone from the body level to the vital level to the heart level, and you have gone to the reason level. I am now asking you to go beyond all these. Go to level 2, the spiritual, and see what the divine is commanding you to do. Don't fall a prey to your very, very limited notions and ideas. Okay, so that's what he said. He is resolved that on the old basis of thought, again we are back to the apara prakriti, the lower nature. There is a higher nature in level 2 and there is a lower nature in level 1. The old basis of thought and motive, he will not fight, and he awaits in silence the answer to objections that seem to him unanswerable. Why are they unanswerable? Because his whole being, right from the physical to the vital to the emotional part and reason, are all saying completely wrong what I have to do. I cannot accept. Unanswerable they seem to him. So he is now waiting for Sri Krishna's answer to what seems to him absolutely his right condition. He knows somewhere that he is wrong, and yet he giving all these arguments. It is these claims of Arjuna's egoistic being. So the egoistic being again, old nature, the level 1, okay, your identification with body, mind, life, that Krishna sets out first to destroy in order to make place for the higher law. There you are, the para prakriti. Don't get stuck at level 1, go to level 2. And if you can't do it, I will temporarily take you there and make you see. Okay, that's exactly what happens in chapter 12 also. He gives him the divine eye, Divya Chakshu, so that he can see the Vishwarupa of Sri Krishna. And he gets frightened actually. He tells him that, give me back my old view, not this higher view. It is too frightening. Okay. So,
But Rangana, even Duryodhan, he says that I know what is right, but I do not, I
that's,
cannot do it.
that's
He
right.
also has this, no?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Janami dharmam na cha me pravritti, that one that is saying. With
Yes,
Janami dharmam na cha me nivritti.
that's right.
So, so how does it differ from Arjuna's knowing and not knowing and
Okay,
not?
okay. I, Duryodhan knows that he is doing wrong, but he cannot go beyond that. In Arjuna's case, he is the man who is ready to go to the next level. That's the difference. No? Duryodhan cannot go. He realizes that what he is doing wrong, but he admits that he is not capable of it. This often happens in life also. When you give a certain work to somebody, they say, no, no, I am not capable of it. Okay? So that is the difference between Duryodhana and Arjuna. Whereas Arjuna is capable, but he is not aware of his capacity. Sri Krishna is going to make him aware of his capacity and make him go up. That's the difference. Yeah, that was an interesting point you raised, Tarika. Okay. So, okay, clear? So, it is these claims of Arjuna's egoistic being that Krishna sets out to destroy in order to make place for the higher law. Only when you destroy.
As a human, we don't know, no, whether that is there or not. So, like Duryodhan, he doesn't know.
Absolutely, that's when you are in ignorance. But remember that there is a potential in you. So that's exactly what each one has to do. We have to.
Potential is in everyone. No, potential is in everyone. So how can you know whether I have that potential or not?
Yeah, okay. I understand what you're saying. The a time comes when you realize that I should develop the capacity to go to my higher level. A decision comes when sometimes you are hit with very, very bad incidents in the world. A decision comes. That is when your inner life starts. Before that, nobody is doing yoga. Everybody accepts their anger, everybody accepts their ego, even justifies it. So, what you're saying is absolutely correct. But this whole Gita is someone who is ready to give up the old and go to the new. And the Gita is telling you how to do that. Okay? By samatha, by sacrifice, by offering yourself, by devotion, by service. That's what all the Gita is going to tell you, no?
Yeah, and that sacrifice itself, like we feel that, but people
will say sacrifice is not the way. No, you cannot sacrifice. You have to go above sacrifice also.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but they're all stages, na? And sacrifice not in the old sense, huh? By the way, the word sacrifice, yajna, is what is meant in the Gita by yajna and also those in synthesis of yoga. By yajna, he means offering yourself to the divine, not not offering in the sense of I am suffering a loss, not in that sense. Okay. The word sacrifice has to be understood as a yajna. And the yajna is remembering the divine and offering your work, your body, your actions, your emotions, and your thoughts to the divine. That is the meaning of the word yajna. That is the meaning of the word sacrifice.
yeah, but we use sacrifice loosely as that I have sacrificed for you. This is going beyond myself.
That's right. Yeah.
Beyond myself, I sacrifice this for you. But is it the right thing to do or not? Like to sacrifice, somewhere it comes from your higher nature. No, that you are ready to let go the thing that you are
Yeah, but
thinking that. Huh,
okay, but how will you start? As I told you, if you don't feel the need, you won't start and you will accept your weakness. Okay? And that's a 90% of humanity is like that. They feel they are not capable. But a time comes, you see, yogic life starts only for 5% or 10% of humanity. And this is being discussed for those who are ready. It does not apply to those who are not ready. Okay? So, yeah,
because mother says no, those thrice go to them who are strong and ready. So first you have to find out whether you are ready or not. No,
that's right. And the
because
time,
you feel you are ready, but that is quite scary when mother says that thrice woe to them who are strong and ready. Yes, yes,
That's
it's the force.
that that's Shravinda's words, no?
yeah, yeah, it's
Whatever. Yeah,
our word, yeah. It's not mother's words, it's Shamna's words.
yeah, Shobin's words, but
Yeah,
read by the mother, so I just said mother.
yeah.
So that is quite scary, when you know that you are ready and you cannot follow it, that brings sort of scare in you that maybe you are ready and you are wasting the force.
Eh?
That's what Arjuna feels now.
Yeah, exactly. That's natural, it happens. But fear is an impurity, remember. And that's what you have to get rid of. Your egoism, your sense of identification with body, mind, life, your fear, all these are the lower nature. And you have to somehow go to the higher nature. So you have to start somewhere. The first thing is to realize that your lower nature is not what you really are. It is imposed on you by the universal nature. That is the first thing that you have to realize. So it's a long journey. And the answer to all that is in the synthesis of yoga. 800 pages. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that completes the paragraph. Okay. So now I think we have 5, 6 minutes. So, oh, we have got more. We have got nearly 10 minutes, 9, 10 minutes. So we'll read the next one. Okay. The
So what is
answer of the teacher.
I'll read Rangada.
Yes, go ahead, read.
The answer of the teacher proceeds upon two different lines. First, a brief reply founded upon the highest ideas of the general Aryan culture in which Arjuna has been educated. Secondly, another and larger founded on a more intimate knowledge, opening into deeper truths of our being, which is the real starting point of the teaching of the Gita. This first answer relies on the philosophic and moral conceptions of the Vedantic philosophy and the social idea of duty and honor, which formed the ethical basis of Aryan society. Arjuna has sought to justify his refusal on ethical and rational grounds, but he has merely cloaked by words of apparent rationality the revolt of his ignorant and unchastened emotions. He has spoken of the physical life and the death of the body as if these were the primary realities, but they have no such essential value to the sage and the thinker. The sorrow for the bodily death of his friends and kindred is a grief to which wisdom and the true knowledge of life lend no sanction. The enlightened man does not mourn either for the living or the dead, for he knows that suffering and death are merely incidents in the history of the soul. The soul, not the body, is the reality. All these kings of men, for whose approaching death he mourns, have lived before, they will live again in the human body. For as the soul passes physically through childhood and youth and age, so it passes on to the changing of the body. The calm and wise mind, the dhira, the thinker who looks upon life steadily and does not allow himself to be disturbed and blinded by his sensations and emotions, is not deceived by material appearances. He does not allow the clamor of his blood and his nerves and his heart to cloud his judgment or to contradict his knowledge. He looks beyond the apparent facts of the life of the body and senses to the real fact of his being and rises beyond the emotional and physical desires of the ignorant nature to the true and only aim of the human existence.
It's a very interesting para, and what Srinde is saying, that on two levels, because Arjuna is still at level 1, so he has to answer him first at level 1, and then he gives him many ideas he has which are wrong, and so he rises to a slightly higher level and starts giving him ideas which are contradicting his normal understanding of things. His normal understanding of things, I'm going to kill my guru and I'm going to finish, they will not accept anymore. So the idea of reincarnation, that death is not the final end of things, he goes on to that. And there is a lot of shlokas which tells you that there is reincarnation. It's not that you disappear entirely. Only your body disappears. That doesn't mean to say that you disappear. So that's what he's saying. So two different lines. The
These are
first,
all the second chapter slokas, no?
pardon?
All the second chapter slokas, no? I think all these are.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Aja Nityo Shashvatoyam. I have never ceased to exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Okay.
Natve vaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadipa. I think it is that, no?
That's right. That's right. That's the one. Okay. So, exactly. So, chapter 2. That's right. So, the answer of the teacher proceeds upon two different lines. The first line is he is going to reply at level 1, and the second one is at level 2, which is slightly more complex. So, the answer of the teacher proceeds upon two different lines. First, a brief reply, very brief, founded upon the highest ideas of the general Aryan culture in which Arjuna has been educated. So, remember, the highest ideas of the general Aryan culture. Whereas Arjuna is he is not applying his highest Aryan culture, he is at the level, the lower level. Okay. He is identifying himself with the body, mind, life. Okay. So that's the first answer. In which Arjuna has been educated. He has a theoretical knowledge, but he is not applying it. Secondly, another and larger, founded upon a more intimate knowledge, psychological knowledge, opening into deeper truths of our being, which is a real starting point of the teaching of the Gita. So the Gita also starts with the body. Don't think that your body is the one that is your real self. Your real self is the soul, and there is reincarnation. Right in chapter 2 itself, we are told that very fundamental truth, okay, which mankind is not aware of, but it is beginning to become aware of now, because there are any number of incidents, and the internet is there very much, and there are more than 2,000 documented cases in America alone. I'm not even talking of India. India also, there are very interesting cases where very clear proof is there that there is reincarnation. Those small children who are born again, they remember their past life and they give great details. So no one can contest those details. They identify the town in which they were there, they identify their relatives, They identify with names. It is so deep. So this is the slowly being recognized all over the world that there is reincarnation. So,
Rangadas, here when he says Aryan culture,
ah,
the general Aryan culture, highest idea of the general Aryan culture. So is it the moral concepts that you have in Aryan culture? What does it mean by Aryan culture? The
certainly not the normal understanding of things. So the Aryan culture, in fact, what was the at that time, what was that Aryan culture is exactly what the Gita is going to tell you all about. It can't be said in two words, but that's higher, exactly the higher Aryan culture is exactly what he is going to be. Uh, okay, here you are saying that it is level one, so
I think Aryan culture is lower to what he is telling. No, what he is that first he where he is educated, where he is.
what are
So
the values given to you at that time? Okay,
huh. So
that's right.
those are moral values, right?
Yes, he's dealing at that.
I feel that it is a typical Kshatriya culture.
That's exactly what I was
You
going
know,
to say.
the typical Kshatriya culture in which he believes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Okay, it's not
Okay.
the moral culture, but the Kshatriya culture.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That's right. It is your duty to fight. Okay,
Hmm.
kartavyam karma. Okay, remember that. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the moral. Now that's the Aryan culture. By the way, the Aryan culture, okay, entire India at one time, right from the east of the Sindhu River, right up to the Assam area and even beyond, it was called the Aryavarta, the
Yes.
Aryan culture. Okay, not the and the word Ar is very interesting. It means to plow the land. Okay, Ar is to that root means plowing the land. And what does it mean? You have to actually plow the land so that you can get a fruitful crop. So that's exactly what you have to do with your own nature. You have to prepare it for receiving the higher nature. That's the Aryan culture. Okay? So, yeah, very clear what the Aryan culture, you can define it that way. That which takes you to the real values from the lesser values. That would be the Aryan culture. Okay. So, what's the time? 8:35. So, I think we'll do this next time. Surely we can't finish it in 2 to 3 minutes. So, we'll take it up next time. We have read it, but we'll redo it. So, Sunki, you note that we have to redo the answer of the teacher. Put it that way.
Yes.
Okay? All right. So, au revoir, everybody.
Everyone, Rangana, merci.
Have a nice day.
Merci beaucoup.